my name's Heath, and today we're going to learn everything that you need to know about character consistency. Traditionally, there's been loads of ways in which we can achieve character consistency, and that method changes all the time. With new models coming out, it becomes much easier to unlock consistency between frames. So in today's session, we're going to dive into the main ways that you can use character consistency right now, and I'm also going to give you a sneak peek of an actual new model that isn't even released yet, which will allow you to get much higher consistency than tools like Nano Banana, for example. So let's dive into our first method. So Higgsfield have their own foundational model called Higgsfield Soul, and what they've done is they've actually trained this model based on user-generated content, aka UGC style content. Now, what is that? For those of you who don't know, it's basically content that you would take on an iPhone to make things look very natural, right? So if you take a look at all of this style of imagery here, a lot of it looks very natural, like it was just taken on a flash on an iPhone, or just casually outside, even like a selfie camera here, right? So they actually have the ability to train your own custom LoRA. Now, for those of you who do not know what a LoRA is, it's this here, okay? So LoRA basically means that you can create your own custom model. So for example, if I tried to use a foundational model or a base model like Midjourney, for example, and I went to Midjourney and I said, create me a image of Rourke sat by the beach looking out into the ocean with a pair of sunglasses on. Now, without providing any references whatsoever, that image model has no idea what I look like. So we have to provide it either with A, some context as to what I look like, or B, we can train our own custom LoRA, which is like having a Midjourney model here, and then our own teeny tiny little custom model that is attached to the base model that we have. And it allows you to create images in the style of this foundational model here, but it allows us to attach our own custom data about ourselves to that model. So here's exactly what that might look like. So you can use Higgsfield to create imagery of yourself by actually uploading a bunch of photos of yourself to, a platform like Higgsfield. And then with that information about the reference photos that you provide, you can actually create your own custom character so that you can create images in the style presets that Higgsfield have. And you'll see here they have lots of different preset styles. So like sunset beach, CCTV, street view, digital cam. This one I made using a VFX template that they have called Spotlight, which allows you to lock in this cool spotlight effect on a image of myself using their own foundational model. Now, I like this because it's got a lot of artistic integrity. I love the UGC style imagery that they create. It allows you to come up with some really cool different styles, different ideas. It's definitely like a UGC style. So if you're looking to create very natural ads, you can definitely use tools like Higgsfield to create consistent characters for that. It's iPhone style, iPhone-led content, ideal to create personal or stylized brand characters. Amazing. So let's actually have a look at that on the platform. And why don't we actually go ahead and create our own custom character for ourselves too? So here's how we can do that. So what I'm going to do right now, while I have you on camera, I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to take a bunch of selfies of myself and I'm going to train my own custom model right now. Okay, so I've just taken a bunch of selfies of myself stood up here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to airdrop all of these to my computer here. So let's airdrop those. Amazing, here we go. So now I can accept all of these and save them to downloads. Now you can go to image at the top here and we can select Soul ID character. Now, if we select this here, you'll see it says make your own character, and you can generate infinite selfies in different styles using your own photos. We analyze your images and learn your unique look in minutes. So we can select create character, and it will give you some reference photos that in a certain style that you should upload and images that you shouldn't upload. Okay, so you can upload images here, and I'm going to upload all of these photos of myself that I've just taken. So you can see here, these are pretty bad photos. I would definitely say, it's giving me a rating of excellent. I would say that that is wildly ambitious, but you can say it's actually given me the coastal chill vibe, which I love because I am actually taking these images while I'm on the coast of Portugal. So that's super cool. And now we can hit generate. And you can see here these are some models that I've trained in the past, and these are the default models that they have installed on Higgsfield that you can, create images with that certain character locked in. But my recommendation when creating your own custom LoRAs is to have really high quality images. If you have photos of yourself taken on a professional camera, like the one that's pointed at me right now, you will be able to train up a very, very strong LoRA. The quality of the image that you give to these models equals the quality of the image that you will get out. So when I say high quality, I would say take close-up shots of your face, really crisp, high-res images of your face, half shots so that it can get the context of what your entire face looks like. Also taking images of yourself from a distance so it can understand your perspectives and your sizing as well is really helpful, because if you only take selfie shots like I just did in this example, it has no context as to my height, my weight, or any of these factors. So taking some images of yourself like this from a little bit further away is also helpful. So I asked my wife to take these images of me, but you could also just put this on a timer, for example, and use that to get some decent images. So you can see our character here, it's taken about 4 minutes for this to load, and it's 99% complete. And you can see here with my other characters, once they're ready to generate with and actually start using, you can click on them and just hit generate. And what you'll see is that it takes you now into the image generation category, where you can see I've actually got some images of myself already in here. Now, let's take a bit of a deep dive into this. So you can see on the bottom left here, it says Soul, and that's because we're obviously using their image model called Higgsfield Soul. Additionally, we have a new option for photo dump, which is very cool, which you can simply start generating, and you can use your character. So let's say I use this one that I've created, and I can hit generate. Now what it's going to do is it's going to use my character and generate 26 unique different images of me with a bunch of different VFX templates and styles, so you can test out a bunch of different ideas of you in different scenes and different settings. So this is a really cool, fast, iterative way of coming up with content and different ideas. And to be honest, it's very unique. No other platform offers this as a service. So this is quite cool. So we can see some of these images coming through right now. So we've got some rather interesting generations coming up, let me tell you. But yeah, I mean, a lot of them are going to be pretty interesting because they aren't prompted to be wearing a hat. It's given me very different hair. I mean, it's definitely my face, but a lot of it is different hair, But overall, the consistency between the character is pretty accurate. So this is quite an interesting use case. Obviously, again, it hasn't, this doesn't give you the option to prompt the fact that I always wear a hat, so it doesn't really understand the context of my hair and things like that. So it's given me a bit of a different haircut and a different style here. But some of these, especially ones I am wearing hats in, are pretty cool. This one is pretty accurate, actually, scarily accurate. But yeah, there's just some pretty cool, pretty fun ones in there to play around with. Really, really interesting model. I like that one a lot. That's funny. Cool. So yeah, that is the dump option. You can also adjust the aspect ratio of the images that you create in here, but obviously you can select from any of your characters. So let's say I just generated one like this. I could also go in and I could change the character to be the new one that we've just created, and I can use the new character. You do actually get some free daily credits as well, by the way, with this, which is pretty cool. So this is also relatively accessible to a lot of people. And you can also create your own character on a pretty low subscription using Higgsfield as well. So this is a really great solution. Now, one of the big drawbacks of this is the plastic skin. You can see here, look how smooth this skin is. In a lot of the generations, they do end up looking very plasticky. So if I scroll right down and have a little look through, like here, for example, you can see that the skin is super smooth. It's very soft. You can't really tell. You can obviously tell, that it's AI generated, right? So I've used this a lot to create imagery of myself. You can see here, these are all my nano banana generations, but the Higgsfield Soul model really does kind of create that very glossy skin texture look that you can see up here. So here are the generations that we have got. This is the first character model, and these aren't actually too bad. There's definitely like skin texture on this character here, so it's done a much better job on these. Like this one is just not me. These ones are closer. Let's see how our new character model holds up. Interestingly, it's taken the side profiles of me, so I would say that like this here is me, and like that is my nose and stuff, but then everything else is not me. So interestingly, it's like very delicate on the training data that you provide it. If you provide it with a lot of side profile training data shots, you're going to end up getting, the same results. So that's also worth noting. And that's also why I say that the training data that you provide for your LoRA is really, really important. So training your own LoRA is one way of achieving consistency between characters, but the next is by using a single reference photo. And this is probably the fastest way that you can create and come up with a bunch of different ways of having the same character in lots of different scenes. And that's using a multimodal tool like Nano Banana, for example. And you can use this either inside of Higgsfield, inside of FreePic. It's honestly everywhere now. So you can use this model anywhere you like or wherever you have access to it. Also, by the way, if you're interested in taking creative Gen AI seriously, then we set up Gen HQ, which is a creative AI education platform that gives you all of the skills that you need to become a professional in the creative AI industry. We'll teach you how to execute on client work, find client work, and build your portfolio so that you can become independent or you can get a job working directly in the creative AI industry. There is a $97 investment to join Gen HQ, but inside of that community, we paid creatives $1,000 an hour for their time to come and give you direct information so that you can learn from the top 1% in the industry so that you can learn and grow as quickly as possible. We have interviews with industry experts who teach you all of the best skills in creative AI, and we've also got modules on all of the top creative AI tools. And whenever there's updates to any of these new tools, we'll go in and make an update video for you so you're learning all of the most relevant up-to-date information. You can check the first link in the description if you're interested in joining. The way it works is by simply uploading a reference photo of your face. So let me show you an example of that in Higgsfield as well. So if we were to change the model from Higgsfield Soul to Nano Banana, we can see here that I now have a reference photo of my face, which I just uploaded into the prompt bar, and that now lives inside of our prompt bar. And now I can use the exact same prompt that I used to create these images, but I can use this reference photo of my face. And let's see how it performs. Now with Higgsfield Soul and their own image generation tool, it generates 4 images at a time, but Nano Banana only generates 1 image at a time. So that's also somewhat of a drawback, but you can also, especially if you have unlimited credits like I do, and on a lot of subscriptions with Higgsfield, you get unlimited image generations with some tools, you can literally just spam it. You can just spam it as many times as you want, and then you can pick the best one. So that's really, really nice that we get unlimited access with some of these subscription tiers. Okay, so you can see some of these have started to load in here. Now, interestingly, I would say that this generation here is the only one that even remotely looks close to the reference photo. These, obviously, I'm not wearing a hat, and that is quite terrifying grimace that that character has on his face. This one isn't so far away, but you can see, overall, it's got a lot of the details correct, especially the hat, for example. Obviously, like, it's the same beard, and you could argue that there is a lot of similarity, but as me, who knows my face, I would say that there is quite a bit of difference. So overall, you can get consistency with characters. So let's say we had this one here. What I could now do is download the image that we've created, and then I could use this photo as the new reference image. So I can upload this as our reference photo in here, and I can say a top view down of the man holding the painting in the Art Deco room. The lasers are pointing in all directions. Okay, and now we can actually use this reference photo that we've created and use that character, aka AI me, and we can use this image to basically manipulate this entire scene and create an entire story based on this one hero image. So this image that we created of myself here in this scene is going to act as our hero image. And this one looks pretty good actually too. You can then, download the image, bring it back into Nano Banana, and then you can prompt it so that you can actually have yourself from multiple camera angles using this as well. So I'm now just going to generate like a bunch of different camera angles. So low angle image of this photo. Let's generate a side profile of the man looking shocked. And then let's generate a first person point of view image from this man. He is holding the Mona Lisa outstretched, and he is looking at the Mona Lisa. Okay. So we're just generating a couple of different angles of this scene, and I'm going to show you how we can now have that consistent character now kind of manipulated and doing lots of different things in the same environment, but with consistency. Okay, so a couple of these images have loaded in here, and you can see that we now have the same character, side profile, low angle. He's supposed to be laying on the floor here, but we have got a really interesting kind of composition going on here. We've got a top view down coming down here, but you can also use a large language model like ChatGPT to help give you a bunch of prompts so that you can say, hey, I want like 10 different prompts where I can put this person in 10 different camera angles, write me 10 prompts to help me with that. And then it will give you a bunch of prompts that you can just go in here, and using the photo, the hero photo that you've created, you can then create a bunch of different angles with consistency of your character. So that's a really good way of creating consistency too. Next up, we have a tool called Seedream. And if you haven't heard of Seedream yet, it's from a company called ByteDance, and they're the company who own TikTok. And they actually allow you to upload up to 6 reference photos when you create an image. So you could combine, a backpack, for example, a certain product, a person's face, or, maybe this item, this camera, you can, or a map, you can upload loads of different reference photos, and you can combine that into a single image, very similarly to Nano Banana. Both Nano Banana and Seedream are really good for image generation and also editing that you can see down here. And it's really easy to use. You don't need to be a master of prompting. You can just use very natural language to get the results that you're looking for. You also get unlimited generations inside of Higgsfield too. So I'll show you that model right now. We can adjust Nano Banana to be Seedream 4.0. And now, if I was to upload an image of my face, so if I said Rourke face, okay, I can upload that in here, and I can say a man who is laying on the grass looking up at the sky, and the camera is in above him, suspended in the air, looking down at the man laying in the grass. Okay, so we can generate this a couple of times. Also worth mentioning, the aspect ratio of the images that you try to create, you can adjust them at the bottom down here. So if I wanted to generate wide images, then we can just adjust the aspect ratio at the bottom. And it does a much better job of giving you the correct aspect ratio than Nano Banana does. Sometimes, if we switch back to Nano Banana, you'll see here we don't actually have an option to choose the aspect ratio. And that's because Nano Banana takes the integrity of any of the aspect ratio that you upload of the first reference photo. So if I uploaded this image as my reference photo, Google Nano Banana would only be able to generate images in that exact aspect ratio. Meaning, if I wanted to generate images that were not in that aspect ratio, I'd have to go and adjust my image, the reference photo that we've provided, to be the correct aspect ratio that we want it to be. Now, you can see here, this is using Seedream. We've got me laying in the grass here. I would say that the physics doesn't quite make sense in this one. I also had a feeling that this was going to happen too, in terms of having like the camera suspended. I thought it might do that. So let's say a man laying sprawled out in the grass, looking. He is in a woodland park. He is looking up at the sky. The camera view is looking down at the man who has his hands behind his head. I do like this image though. This one looks pretty good. That actually does look like me from like side profile too, which is really impressive. So I could definitely just like remove this, using generative fill in Photoshop or Midjourney, and just remove this, and I could actually have like a really solid start frame here. Also, love the fact with Seedream that we have the option to adjust the aspect ratio very easily. Definitely helps massively. So Seedream right now, honestly, might be one of the best image models out there. It's really, really powerful, just as powerful as Nano Banana. I would say that Nano Banana does provide a bit more consistency for characters, because if we are to take a look at this preview in here, like some of these characters, sure, they do look like me, but there does seem to be a little bit more artifacts, I would say, in terms of things that shouldn't actually be there. You see, my hair doesn't look like this, and especially this long, it's kind of imagined that, right? When that's not actually accurate. Whereas I think Google Nano Banana definitely gets a little bit more specific and doesn't lead to like any of these crazy random generations, hallucinations as you could call them. So this is really solid. Like, these images are super, super solid. Also notice how it has taken all of the clothing that I'm wearing, right? That's the Vans hat that I wear. It's also taken inspiration from the white t-shirt that I'm wearing in the reference photo. You can see here, this is actually a white t-shirt I'm wearing, but it's actually thought that this is a jumper, and it's now applied this jumper onto the rest of the photos. So you can see that right here. Now, the next method that you can use to unlock character consistency is a tool called either ideogram or ideogram, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Now, ideogram is a really interesting one because what they've done is you can upload a single reference photo of your face, okay? So if you have a look down here, right? So here is the reference photo of my face, which I've used in, the other examples, this exact reference photo. And you'll see what it's done is it's literally cropped out my face like this, okay? And all it's doing is it's actually sticking that directly onto this face here, okay? Don't believe me? Well, take a look at this. You see up here, right? If we take a look at the forehead up here, right? It has used AI to generate this image. And then you can see that all of my freckles and everything else down here are present. But up here, it's plasticky and it's super smooth, right? And the exact same thing shows right here. All of this is completely smooth skin, and then everything down here is not. So what it's really doing, and the same here, right? It's given me the biggest forehead on earth, right? And it's just literally taking an image and it's literally cutting out your face and putting it on. Now, this is a really cool photo because it doesn't look like it's like my face has just been cut out and stuck on. But you can see here, when you upload the reference photo into ideogram, okay, once you've uploaded it, it literally will cut out the face and it will show you the face cut out so that you can unlock character consistency to the highest degree because it's actually your face, right? And so it's a one photo LoRA, it's pretty interesting. I would say that like having the ability to, unlock great fidelity with this simple hack is incredible, and a lot of people use this. Like a lot of professionals use ideogram because it is very, very powerful and you can actually get very high consistency with characters. If you're working with celebrities or if you're working with high profile individuals, CEOs, whatever it may be, this might be a really great tool to make sure that there is no discrepancy over what they look like, because you can literally argue, well, it's actually their face. So it's just basically like a face swapping tool, essentially. It's creating an AI image and then it's replacing the face on top of the AI image, which is pretty cool. A very smart solution. The next step is using a tool like Flux. Now, Flux is another fantastic image model, and they've got loads of different image models using Flux. They've got Flux Context, they've got Flux Ultra, and Flux actually has the ability and was one of the first companies to ever allow you to train your own custom LoRA. Okay, and so this LoRA training feature from Flux has been around, I want to say, for maybe about 12 months now, maybe 10 or 12 months. And this was the first LoRA that I ever trained of myself. Okay, this one right here. And I generated this LoRA, again, using just a bunch of selfies of myself from different angles, and also a couple of different like images of myself, you know, so that I had a bit of perspective of like what I looked like from like far away. And it worked pretty well, right? So you can train your own custom LoRA inside of FreePic. I'll show you how to do that very shortly. You have to upload a photo album of one person to train the Flux. And then in your prompt, all you have to do is write in a tag like @Rourke, and then it will actually pull from that character and lock in that character for that scene. So let me show you what that looks like. So inside of FreePic, if we go all the way down to character here, right? So skip past all of this stuff and come down to character. So if you select on here, you'll be able to see a bunch of pre-made characters that they have made already, right? But you'll also be able to see other characters that you've made. And here is my character, Rourke, okay? And inside here, I have uploaded a bunch of photos to train this character. And now, if I go into my prompt bar, I can type @Rourke, right? And you'll see that now it's hyperlinked, okay? So because I've trained my character, I can go @Rourke is standing in a field, or let's say he's sat on a cloud. Let's do something crazy. Sat on a cloud, cinematic lighting, right? And I can also adjust the image model too. But interestingly, you can actually use this custom LoRA and this character that you've trained with not only Flux images, but you can use this with Google Nano Banana. And I'm only just finding this out right now, literally right now. So I'm actually going to explore this with you, which is super cool. So I'm going to adjust the aspect ratio in here, and let's generate a few different examples of me sat on a cloud, cinematic lighting at sunset, orange tones and hues, okay? And then we can just hit generate a couple of times. Now, interestingly, I can already see what it's doing. Now, this literally one of the reference photos that I provided. How do I know that? It's because I actually took this photo about 8 months ago, right? And I remember this photo, and it's literally taking that image of me and it's placing one of those reference photos inside of this scene. So that's pretty interesting. But you can, let's say I wanted to have, let's give like more context as to what I'm doing. Let's say I didn't take any images of me saluting, for example. So maybe let's try and prompt that. So he is saluting the sun in the distance. Let's see how it handles trying to prompt specific like actions and movements, because this is literally like an exact photo of me going like this, by the way. So, oh wow. Yeah, okay. No, I mean, that's not my chin, nor is that my jaw, but it's pretty close. I mean, I was wearing these clothes. That's my hair. Like, you could definitely pass this as pretty accurate. Now, interestingly, if we change this image model to like a Flux image model, so let's say we did Flux context max, and I tried this, let's see how it does. So yeah, this has done a pretty good job too. So these are the clothes that I was wearing. That is like my hair at the time, and you know, that is me being sat on the clouds. So we could generate like quite a few different examples of this, but this is also another great way of you know, creating your own consistent character. So if you wanted to create your own character, you can select the character option in FreePic. So make sure you're in the image generator section and then head all the way down to character. Now select new character, and then you can name this character whatever you like. So let's just call it Kyle, select the gender, and then you can upload some actual reference photos. So you can use all of those images that you just took of yourself, for example, and you can upload all of those into FreePic to train up your own custom LoRA. And what's really exciting is that we can clearly now actually have like a bunch of different LoRAs that we can use with different models. So that's really, really exciting. But also, I'm just seeing here, it says looking for better results, train your own character. This is what I wanted, yeah. Okay, so we don't just want one reference photo, okay? This is not where we want to be. Make sure you select train your own character, which you can also find at the top right here. Now you can upload lots of reference photos instead of one singular photo, and you can select on the quality section, do ultra, right? And this will cost you 3,000 credits, but once you've trained your character, this will train your own custom Flux LoRA so that you can use your own character and have consistency as well. And it gives you recommendations here as to like how many images you need. It says you should do about 24 images. Sometimes anywhere between 5 to 25 is enough. And you can also do this with products too. So you can take a bunch of photos of a product, for example, and you could train your own custom LoRA on a specific product. Maybe it's like a really niche like shoe, for example, and you wanted to try and prompt this exact shoe. You could take a bunch of photos of the shoe and train your own custom LoRA on it, and then you could generate images with it that way. But to be honest, when it comes to products, usually just a single reference photo with a tool like NanoBanana does an incredible job. So that's another way that you can unlock character consistency. And another way that we can do it is actually by using a tool like Flux Context. So for example, it's very similar to using a tool like NanoBanana, right? Where all you have to do inside a free pick is adjust this to be Flux Context Max. And you can now upload a reference photo of your face. So if I said Rourke face, I can upload that in here, right? And with this, I can say a man is walking down the streets of New York holding an umbrella while it is raining, right? Basic prompt, and we can generate a couple of different examples of this. And you'll see that it does a really good job of maintaining consistency. I would argue that like this is one method of creating a consistent character, right? Here it is, okay? There is me under the umbrella, you know, and there's a couple of different examples of that in here. The issue with Flux Context is that a lot of the times the images look really compressed, okay? So yes, this is a way that you can have a consistent character, but if you're going to create an image of a consistent character, right, maybe you create an image of yourself using NanoBanana, maybe you use a Flux LoRA, you know, there's lots of different ways that you can go about it, right? So this is NanoBanana. This was the Flux LoRA, which looks really crisp, really, really nice. This was using Flux Context, and this was using our character with NanoBanana as well. So you can see we're getting different results based on these different models. You could totally use Flux Context. Again, it's just a bit of a drawback is that the images look really compressed. A lot of the time as well is obviously the reference photos. You can see in the reference photos that I use to train my Flux LoRA, I'm wearing this is actually like a North Face hoodie or like a jumper that I was wearing. And in all of my generations, I'm actually wearing that exact item of clothing. You can see it right here, right? So whatever clothes that you're wearing, you'll actually notice them showing up in a lot of your generations when it comes to training your own custom LoRA or the reference photo that you provide. We uploaded one reference photo in here, and notice by default, I'm now wearing a white t-shirt because that original reference photo was me wearing a white t-shirt. It was me wearing this exact t-shirt right here. Now, the last method of creating consistent characters is using a tool like OmniReference in Midjourney. Now, I know that people have struggled a lot in the past at achieving consistency in Midjourney when using OmniReference. So I'll give you all of the tips and tricks that I can possibly think of to help you unlock consistency, because I personally think it all comes down to the reference photo that you provide Midjourney. So here is a few tips and tricks. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for here on YouTube, but if you want to watch the rest of this video and learn more about creative AI, then you can click the first link in the description and come and join Gen HQ. If you're interested in taking creative Gen AI seriously and turning this into a professional career, then you can come and join us over at Gen HQ.